All right, what's happening, everybody? Hope everyone's doing well. We're live. Gonna get started here. Let me know if you guys can hear me good in the chat real quick. Type in the chat if you guys can hear me okay. Should be good. Should be good. Gold's pushed up a lot. We've had some strong movement on gold to start the week out. Pushing up because of the global conflict. It looks like the global conflict, the war, is coming to an end, a slowing. Things are slowing down, progressing. Peace is being talked about. That's why gold pushed up, but we're pretty high right now on gold. We just rejected, 43.50. And yeah, we could get a pullback, I think, down on gold. We're pretty high right now. Markets are reacting. Crypto's reacting this week. We can see a bounce today, this week. Last week and this week, we got a bounce on Bitcoin. And yeah, we have this global conflict. Could be the next bullish catalyst as we're in this phase with crypto. We don't have that much longer in this phase, in this cycle, the bearish cycle. We don't have that much longer left, maybe some months in this part of the cycle, the bearish cycle. And we have this global conflict coming to an end, right? Is the end of the global conflict part of the next bullish catalyst for Bitcoin? Most likely. I just wrote some things on this. So markets hate uncertainty, and they can price in bad news. They struggle to price in the unknown. So over the last year, this whole year, geopolitical tensions have been one of the biggest force influencing global markets, with wars, trade disputes, sanctions, supply chain disruptions, energy concerns have created uncertainty across nearly every asset class. So when uncertainty rises, capital becomes more defensive. Investors hold more cash. Risk appetite decreases. So risk appetite. Let's say the risk appetite for something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or crypto, something very high volatile. Because I'll tell you, I talk to like 50-year-olds, older heads that own in this building, like they own units in this building, and they're happy with like 6% a year, 7% a year. They don't have that. They're like there's people who are like, I'm not that guy, I'm not that person to take that risk appetite. And Bitcoin's really when you look at the volatility of it, the crypto market, it's quite a monster. So in times like this, the risk appetite really decreases. Money waits. But what happens when those uncertainties begin disappearing, now the markets can start to look forward more because the outlook changes. So money, where it might have had its plan, because money waits. What happens when uncertainties disappear, right? Markets can look forward. That money can start to go places or go back to where it was, move around. It doesn't have to have the outlook of uncertainties as much. If those uncertainties begin disappearing, that outlook is gone for the longer term. If investors expected this war to go until the end of the year, we might not be able to talk like this. Let's say if the war was going to drag on to the end of the year, it would be a longer winter season, right? So this happening now, end of global conflict potentially could be a bullish catalyst. The sooner it happens, because the longer it drags out, it's harder for markets to look forward, right? Okay. So I just put if anyone can read these blog insights. Anyone can go to ecapstrading.com, read these blog insights that I post every week in here. Anyone can make a free account and look at these blog insights. Let me add this one. Just posted this like 13 minutes ago. Anyone can make an account. ecapstrading.com can make a free account and go through these blog insights and other information and stuff here. There's a media vault here that some videos are there. And there's some downloadable resources as well. So yeah, when uncertainty falls, you get increased investor confidence, greater risk appetite, more capital flowing into equities, more speculative investment activity, more speculative investment activity, stronger participation across risk assets. Now, Bitcoin's a risk assets. It's very speculative for a lot of people, especially like older people, generations older, especially like people that are past my generation. A lot of people of my generation really understand it. But you have billionaires owning it, you have governments owning it, countries owning it. Like, it's not just like your neighbor owns it, your Uber driver. Yeah, like over 100 million people in the US are in Bitcoin. Over 100 million people right now in the US holding Bitcoin, or globally, if I'm not mistaken. Over 100 mil. More people are holding Ethereum. I think there's like 20% more people holding Ethereum than Bitcoin, actually. But yeah, when you look at even billionaires hold it, countries hold it, states hold it, ETFs hold it. Some of the largest ETFs companies hold it. It's not just like anyone holding it. So a lot of this matters for Bitcoin, even looking forward, right? Many investors still view it as a risk asset, as a speculative asset. So the bigger picture also, there's a lot in here. I'm going to go over another thing, like why the next 6 months could look different. The next 6 months could look different if geopolitical tensions keep easing. If you see economic visibility improving right now, like in the U.S., you have a lot of there's something going on. You got a lot of events going on in the U.S. You got FIFA. You had this UFC match. You just had the NBA champions, the Knicks one. Something's going on behind the scenes. Just so you know, the war is ending. This isn't even about the war, but there's more. There's something going on behind the scenes that And one thing crypto has lacked much for the past years is clarity. So the final piece in all of this, the bigger picture is the geopolitical tensions ending, easing, coming to an end. You see economic visibility improving. And then clarity. So clarity is the one thing that the market has lacked for much of the past years. So this is the regulatory piece. Another big piece in this catalyst for the next 6 months, where Bitcoin will go into accumulation, slow growth, maybe cheaper prices. We're going to go over the charts in a little bit, but clarity, when we talk about these geopolitical tensions and stuff like this, right, there's uncertainty there for risk assets. When we talk about the Clarity Act, that brings more certainty to the market. So this is one of the biggest things in terms of the regulatory for crypto, biggest obstacles for crypto, for regulatory uncertainty. But even saying that, many institutions, funds, and corporations have already planted their flags and seeds already in this, right? In digital assets or blockchain technology. This will be the final catalyst probably in the next 6 months. The Clarity Act getting passed. This will increase institutional confidence, capital allocation could expand, and long-term adoption could strengthen. It could mature much, much more. The market could mature much more. So yeah, this conflict coming to an end is good for crypto, being a risk asset that it is. It actually is good for crypto. Because like, how are you supposed to have a forward outlook? It's harder to have a forward outlook if this war is expected to last a long, long time. Go check that out. Go read up on it. I didn't read everything in there, but just some brief information there. Even like Bitcoin, I posted this 2 days ago as well. So Bitcoin, what are you guys saying in the chat? Global reset. Global reset. Well, we're living in an either, if you look at what's happening in the U.S. right now, it's a very interesting chapter. I said last night it was Trump's birthday yesterday. So yesterday was Trump's birthday. Ended the war. Celebrated his birthday, hosting a UFC fighting match at the White House. I mean, if you look at what Trump, like, it's June, Pride Month. Trump, that's what I'm talking about right there. Solid. Fighting. If you go look at what Biden did in June during this time, we got that was a solid event. If you watched it on TV, the production was solid. But yeah, and we got FIFA happening in the U.S. It's also happening in Mexico. It's happening in the Western Hemisphere. The Western Hemisphere. FIFA's happening in Mexico, U.S. That's going to bring a lot of revenue to these states, these places where these events are happening at. A lot of tourism right now going to be happening for like Mexico, the U.S. There's something you could see he's trying to do here, all right? But yeah, the timing of it couldn't be so coincidental. His birthday, the war ending on his birthday, this UFC freedom match, 250 years celebrating America's birthday, coming up of 250 years. Interesting timing, to say the least, right? SpaceX just launched their IPO. SpaceX wants to take over Microsoft. SpaceX wants to take over a lot of these companies too. Yeah, so we're either living through, what I said is we're either living through the rise of an empire, or the most euphoric part of it, the most euphoric part of the empire, or the most entertaining chapter in its decline. It's either going to be that rise, we're going through the last pump of a rise, or it comes back stronger, or it's just like an entertaining chapter in its decline and a whole new evolution being created. It's interesting when you think of it like that. But yeah, Bitcoin, the 200-week moving average, and what history tells us about this. So the 200-week moving average has always been a key point for Bitcoin and its price. So as Bitcoin has pulled back, right, the recent months, one level is beginning to attract people like me, again, investors, or people who understand the long-term cycles of this thing, 4 or 5 year cycles. People understand the long term, because anyone who's actually held Bitcoin for more than 4 years has been fine. Realistically, anyone who's actually held Bitcoin, no matter where you bought it, actually, up until like the point, no matter where you bought Bitcoin, you could have bought it here, you could have bought it here, you could have bought it here, you could have bought, like, if you held it for like 4 years, no matter where you bought it, like, you could have bought it here. If you held it for 4 years, you would have been fine. So anyone who actually understands Bitcoin longer term, right, is really maybe even paying attention to some of the things right now that we're probably going to be going into the last couple months here, going into the end of the year, when we get past this summertime and then we get that last quarter of the year. So that's that 200-week moving average. Historically, it's been one of Bitcoin's most important long-term support levels. So yeah, the 200-week moving average tracks Bitcoin's average price over the last 200 weeks. Because it measures nearly 4 years of price data, it helps identify long-term trends while filtering out short-term volatility. So think of it like Bitcoin's long-term equilibrium zone. So historically, we've had times where we've come back to the 200-day moving average, and it's either acted like a support or a long-term support, an accumulation zone, a sentiment reset area, a foundation for future cycles. Okay? While no indicator is always perfect, history shows some of Bitcoin's best long-term opportunities have appeared near and around this level. It doesn't always guarantee a bottom. However, it's consistently been an area where long-term investors have been paying attention. Usually, when you're at the 200-week moving average, fear is elevated, sentiment is usually negative, and most participants are focused on recent losses rather than long-term trends. So the 200-week moving average has always been a long-term support, or even an area where some of the best buying lowest, cheaper prices. Basically, when you're looking at the 200-week moving average, some of the cheapest prices for Bitcoin have arrived there when you've gone into a bear market, right? And we came to that literally 2 weeks ago when we crashed down to 59K. We came down to 59K and we tapped the 200-week moving average. But historically, it's always been a level prices come back to, right? You don't have to fear Bitcoin right now. Most people are in fear, right? Because it's been down from all-time highs. People have compared it to the stock market, which was ripping and going up these months. Now, you can't compare something that has been around for decades, like generations. Stock market's been around for generations. Bitcoin is still crypto is still maturing, really. When you look at previous bear markets, most investors would be panicking in previous bear markets, obviously, when prices are down. Same sentiment. Fear is usually elevated. All bear markets have come back to the 200-week moving average. So it's one thing to know when price has catapulted and made a long-term trend up. There's going to be a point in time where it will return back to that 200-week moving average. His history has always shown us that in long-term markets, right? So whenever you've peaked, or whenever you come to even the time where investors are panicking the most, for sure, the market's just been creating this pattern over time, right? I mean, understanding that a bull market can at some point come back to the 200-week moving average, right? We've seen it many times. 2018 bear market was here. So the 2018 bear market, right? The 2018 bear market, 2020 even had then COVID crashed. There was a panic sell-off during COVID. And Bitcoin briefly traded near the 200-week moving average. 2022 bear market. And now This bear market. 2025 going 2026. We've seen another point where we've reached back to that 200-week moving average just last week, like at the beginning of last week when the market was crashing down. So in the last weeks, it almost came back to it in February. So it's all, if you look at even before 2018, so or you look at 2013 here, 2013, or this would actually, or the 2014 bear market here, 2014 eventually came back to the 200-week. So every bear market, 2014, 2020 even crashed down to it with COVID, and then 2022, and now 2026, right? 2018. Before that was 2014. So we had 2014 bear market. We had 2018 bear market, 2022 bear market, 2026 bear market. 4 years. Right? We had 2014 bear. 2014 was a completely bearish year for Bitcoin. 4 years later was 4 years later was its next bear market. In 2018. So you really have to think long term with this thing, because you may have to actually withstand an entire bear market if you don't sell, that is. Or the time you get in, like if you're a new investor, imagine you're a new investor and you don't understand this thing, and you buy at $90,000 or $100,000 for the first time, and now you've been in the water for going to be approaching a year in a bit, right? Imagine you're a new investor that gets into this thing. You got to have a long-term outlook on this thing, because it's even about when you get in. Imagine you get in at 100K for the first time, and you spend long-term going down, right? So one thing to understand is every 4 years there's a bear market with this. 2014, then we had the 2018. Briefly with COVID, there was a panic sell-off that came to it, but when you're looking at bear markets, it's every 4 years. 2014, 2018, 2022, and now 2026 has been bear market coming into 2026. So you always, like, there's going to be bear markets. Every 4 years has shown us that. Every 4 years has shown us that. All those bear markets have come back to the 200-week moving average. That's been some of the cheapest, lowest, or even fair value to start buying. Last bear market, 2022 bear market, which was the last one. And that had the collapse of several major crypto companies inside of it as well. If you notice, every single one of these bear markets have had extreme catalysts inside of them as well that were very eventful. Whether it was hacks, collapses, right? That's what happens when something is in early adoption. Like, realistically, when you're looking at the time span of this, like every bear market, China, the whole China mining situation, India, Germany, there's been events that have had, like 2022, there was collapse of several major crypto companies, which when you look at markets that grow, not everything makes it, really. Like, not everything is legitimate, even in the sense, like there's things that completely collapsed inside of all of this, where we've gotten to now and where we gotten to this point. And that's why I added in here the blog insight I posted today talking about clarity. Clarity. All right, one of the things, I write right here, I write clarity, right? Just clarity. When you look at some other bear markets with those collapses, that doesn't really give you clarity or give you certainty, right? But my opinion is, in something that has like an early adoption phase, things like that are going to happen. It probably happened with the internet. I don't know. I was a kid. I was like a little kid, so I don't know. It probably happened with the internet, or when like it probably happened when stocks really started trading publicly for the first time. This probably happened in like cycles through adoption of things. That's where my bigger belief and opinion is at on the bigger picture. So war ending, I mean, the war ending. So you see oil came down, so that's good. Seeing oil crash down. This is how the markets are going to be able to look forward. So pay attention right now. Like even if you look at today, I think Ethereum's up. I was saying to you guys, anybody who's tapped in, like Ethereum being below $2,000 is cheap in my sense. Anybody who's been tapped in below 2K Ethereum, we've talked about. This was the same conversation we had when it was $1,500, $1,400. So like this conversation I'm having with you guys right now, we had last week. If you're in the inner circle, I've been having this conversation with you guys every day. Every session I've done, pretty much the last 2 weeks. If you're in the inner circle, like pretty much every session I've done, I've had this conversation with you guys. I've said when we're at 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, whatever, being below $2,000, we've talked about for the last 2 weeks. I've said that's cheap, right? It's maybe opportunity there if you're thinking, okay, we're below 2K. If you're in the inner circle, I've talked about this on several streams. And we came down 69, almost 70%. When something's down 70%, that's how I look at like bear market accumulation time. Even if it goes down more, same conversation. Even if it goes down more, same conversation, right? Even if it goes down more. All right? How we doing? Because when the clarity is there too, you see how crypto moved today? It'll move fast. Like when clarity comes, crypto will move fast. I mean, Bitcoin was just at $59,000. It's at 67. You can still buy it, or you can wait till it goes to 70,000 and buy it. That's the thing. When the market gives you those fearful cheap prices, it's always good to dollar cost average, because it's like Bitcoin was just at 59, 60K. Now it's at 67. You can still buy it. It's going to go to 70K. You can still buy it at 70K, right? Or you can wait. You can wait a couple months too, because in the next couple months we'll probably try to go back down to the 50s. All right. We'll see. Yeah, Bitcoin reacting to the war news, because again, the money, if the war is ending, capital is going to rotate. That's why like war ending is actually positive for it's good for everyone. Peace is good for everyone, realistically. And then you got what's Bank of Japan doing? Yeah, like stock market could dump. I think is Bank of Japan Bank of Japan. So we got a few important events actually that could potentially bring the stock market down. Someone just said in the chat we got FOMC, but we also got Bank of Japan. The Bank of Japan coming out, and they are forecasting to raise their rate. I think historically that has been a trigger for the market sell-off with the Bank of Japan, the BOJ. Pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I think I saw like bull theory post. Let me see if I can find it maybe. And then we got FOMC this week. This could be a crazy week actually with the war ending too. And then you got Bank of Japan. So I saw this that historically Japan has triggered 4 market sell-offs since 2024. Tomorrow could be the 5th. So tomorrow, June 16, the Bank of Japan announces a rate decision. 49 of 51 economists surveyed by Bloomberg expect a hike from 0.75 to 1%. Market probability is above 90%. If confirmed, it marks the first time Japan's benchmark rate has hit 1% since 1995. Holy shit. Right before the dot-com bubble. Ending 3 decades of ultra-cheap money that funded a large carry trade. So when was it? March 2024? And then July 2024, January 2025. This is from Bull Theory. Shout out Bull Theory here on X.com. On June 5th, NASDAQ fell. And then, yeah, so this is a long thread here. But here it is. Here's the chart for it. Here's actually the chart. It's triggered, like, it's been a trigger for some of it. You can see historically. So you got Bank of Japan, and then we got the FOMC coming on Wednesday as well. Bank of Japan with FOMC could be a lot of people are. I've seen a lot of people saying preparing for like a stock market crash because, and some people are saying the market, they're ending the war to pump the market one more time before the stock market crashes. You got the major IPOs and stuff and everything. So yeah, I mean, stock market's strong right now. You can see today, I think we're like ripping to highs. Yeah, the Dow Jones, S&P. I mean, with war ending, that's a positive sign for the market, obviously. But then you have FOMC and this BOJ, Bank of Japan, coming out this week. That's where things get interesting. Gold's selling off right now. Gold just rejected 4-hour time frame at 43.50. We have a gold came with a pretty strong gap this week. I think it might try to come down to retest 4,300. I think it's going to try to come down to like 4,300. So it looks like the 4-hour just closed bearish here at 43.50. Now we're getting a sell-off on gold. I think it'll try to come down to 4,300 area here. And we have a big gap on gold. This candle looks bearish, like it's engulfing the last one. We could drop down on gold here to like 4,300. Some Zcash went back up. There's some cryptos that are pumping today. I even said like Solana was just at 60 bucks. Now it's at 74. So it's like when the market gives you cheap prices, it's either you're gonna take those as opportunities, or you might buy at a higher price. It's at 74 now. It was just at 60 bucks. Solana was just at 60 bucks, right? I was saying to you guys, it could go to 50, but it's like, what's the difference so much of like getting in at 60 and then dollar cost averaging it at 50, or if it goes to 40? That's how I like to think when the market's in extreme fear or cheap prices. Like Bitcoin's not necessarily cheap, but some things are way cheaper in comparison. Like Solana came down 79%, almost 80% in value. So that's where you're actually at cheap price. It's like, it's not just down 20%, 30%, 40, 50, it's down 80% in value. Now you're at 75, so most people won't buy at 60 and then they'll buy at 75, or when it goes back to 80, or when it goes back to 100 and they'll be like, oh, I should have bought then. Yeah, we got high interest rates, high inflation. So yeah, stock market's pumping right now, but there's high interest rates, there's high inflation as well. So could be a sell-off coming soon. Unless like the end of this war, like this war ending is just a strong enough catalyst to keep this run on a legendary run. Coinbase, like even Coinbase will probably do well long term, like in the next bullish cycle for crypto. Coinbase came down even a lot. Coinbase was at $440. And now it's come down to like, it came down to 140. Everybody wants to buy SpaceX, but SpaceX is, so SpaceX just came out. You can buy it. You can trade it even on Hyperliquid. Like, let's talk about this for a minute. Everybody wants to buy the SpaceX stock. I mean, it's doing well right now. It's probably gonna do all right in this next month, like as it comes out. But it's pretty expensive to say the least. Like coming out for if you're a retail trader, a retail investor, like if you're just a regular person, regular retail trader, it's pretty expensive in the sense, I would say, because it's like, look at the market cap already. So I mean, amazing company long term. I think it's something, right? It's at $183 at 2.4 trillion right now. Like a lot of these other companies, like Apple, for example, you know, Apple took a while to hit 4.3 trillion. Like you could have bought Apple 5 years ago. You could have, like, if you look at like Apple for a comparison. Look at Apple. Apple's where it's at now, right? One of the biggest companies, right? I mean, Apple was at 180 here, right? Like 180 in 2023, 2024. But like look at before that, when Apple was at $50. Apple was at $50 in 2019. Below $100 2020, 2019, 2018. Now it's here and it's worth 4.3 trillion, right? So I mean, from a retail point of view, it's like, okay, long term, I think it makes sense long term, but I would want to get it below $100 if possible. Like if possible, I would honestly want to buy this below 150 or below $100, you know. I have $100 marked down there. If possible, like a lot of IPOs, they pump and then they can dump. They can dump like 50% in value, right? They could dump like 50% in value. If it could come to like 100, closer to 100, then I'm like, okay, it's definitely cheaper then. It's already 2.4 trillion. So realistically, like, think about it doubling. Like for you to double, it needs to go to 4.8 trillion. So you would double your money when this becomes a $4.8 trillion company. Conservatively long term, I'm not saying financial advice, but conservatively long term, hey, that might be something, but I wouldn't say it's like the cheapest right now in the sense of like what your ROI is, what you're looking for. Most of you guys are probably looking for, like, if you're conservative long term, it's like, yeah, okay, makes sense. You're trying to buy it over the next 5 years, 3 years, 4 or 5 years. So yeah, 2.4 trillion. So like realistically, you'd want like for this, if this could, it could keep going up. It could go to 200. It might bring in more hype. It might go to $200, and then it could crash down 50% in value. If there's a stock market, if there is a stock market dump at some point, like it could rally, bring in more investors, bring in more attention, bring in more hype, and then dump down 50%, 40% in value. Even if it, like imagine if it just pumped to like 200 or 220 and then ends up dumping. That could happen. Like think of that as a scenario, right? A lot of major IPOs, when they come out, they kind of do that. Like we could, like Meta was one, like Facebook, when Facebook came out, it dumped like 60%, if I'm not mistaken, it was, or 50, 60%. Yeah, see. Like when the Facebook IPO came out, it actually just dumped right away. SpaceX could do something like that. It's hard to time. Could happen in these months if the stock market's going to have like a big pullback soon. But that's pretty hype right now. Everybody wants to buy it. But I feel like, okay, even if it pushed to $200, it's like that would bring in a lot more attention, a lot more liquidity, and then it could have like some dump. So, I mean, good company, great company, interesting company long term. But yeah, like if you look at some cryptos right now, like if you look at Jupiter's at 19 cents, for example. You know, let's compare some things that are way cheaper. Where like, let's say, okay, you got one share, $180. You could spread out $180 in 3 cryptos and probably get a way better return. Like let's say $180 per share on SpaceX. Okay, Jupiter 19 cents. Jupiter could, from these levels, give you a 5x, potentially even 10x. So you throw $30 into Jupiter, $40 into Jupiter. There you go. So that leaves us with 140. That leaves us with 140. So let's go another coin. XLM pumped 21% today. Damn, that would have been a good one right there. Let's go Ondo. You throw another $40 in Ondo, something like that. There you go. That could potentially double, even up to triple right there. Xauusd. So Xauusd. So now we're down. Now we got 120 left. We got $120 left. I throw another $40 in Xauusd right here, right? 81 cents. That could potentially 5x, 4, 5x, 3 to 5x. There you go. That's cheap right there. What else? Some cheaper coins. I'm just looking at like cheaper coins. ICP. So ICP, there we go. So now I got $80 left. ICP could throw $40 in ICP. ICP could potentially give you a 10x, right? So that $40 right there could potentially turn into $200, $400 versus like putting 180 in SpaceX right now, $180, right? You could throw $50 in ICP, and you'll get a better trade there probably with $50 longer term. You could throw $50 in ICP, you'll probably get a better return there, you know, longer term. That's cheaper. Jupiter's cheaper. What else is cheaper? Aster's cheaper. There you go, right there. Aster, $40 could get you a bit faster gains probably with some of these coins that I just mentioned. Realistically, hype's up. That's hype. That's high right now. XRP 128. Would have said, you know, if 105 would have been, if you bought XRP at 105, nice. XRP at 128, with like $40, you know, I was saying some cheap coins, you know. Where's Chainlink at? Chainlink $2 in the 8s, right? Went to $7. Chainlink could even give you a better return than that, realistically. What else? What else? Uniswap is freaking low. Yeah, ICP. You can look at literally ICP. So yeah, SpaceX. I mean, if the risk appetite is there, SpaceX would be like, that would be conservative long term. If you're buying SpaceX at these prices, you gotta understand you could get dumped on. It did pump and then dump pretty quickly. I figure the next month will be pretty hyped for it. Pengu, you could probably throw $10 in like Pengu. What? Wait, let's see. Oh yeah, you could probably throw like $10 of that 180. You know, some of that 180 you could throw in some high rollers. You could probably put like some of that 180, like 10, 20 bucks in something like Pengu for like a high roller, and it's like that could freaking maybe give you like a crazy, you know, run for like dog whiff hat or like whiff. Yeah, you could probably like 10 to $20 of that and like whiff. Potentially get a 10x, 20x, or what, SPX 6900. At these prices for a lot of altcoins, it's like a lot of altcoins are super cheap, yo. Like even some meme coins are super, super cheap. Tau was just at 180. That would have been a better buy at 180 than SpaceX, actually. Tau down there. Look where even Coinbase, let's compare Coinbase. Coinbase, if you look at Coinbase, they did really well when Bitcoin grew, when everything grew. So Coinbase is 170, SpaceX is 180, and we know crypto's gonna start going back in a bull run in the next year, right? So even Coinbase would be probably like better long term, cheaper, I would say, on the chart. Like look, it's come down versus like this being high up. But yeah, like 180 per share. Realistically, if I was like, I'm gonna buy this 180 per share, right? It's like, okay, I could actually spread 180 out into a couple cryptos that are cheaper right now. Jupiter, for example, like that was just at like 16 cents, 17 cents. So you got Jupiter as an example, right? Jupe, that's cheap, low. Even like what's CRO at? CRO is super low too. Like look at some of these coins. Ondo, super low. Aster, Sui. It's like 40 bucks here, 50 bucks. Like I spread that 180 out into some of these. Like realistically, Sui's freaking low. And like I could take the risk of 180. Like I could say, okay, I'm gonna buy one share, 180. One share is 180. Or it's like the risk could be like, okay, I'm gonna put $40 in Sui of that 180. That $40 could potentially 5x, right? 3 to 5x. That $40. Still got 140 left, right? That $40 could multiply, right? Still got 140 left, right? So I could buy one thing for 180 right now. Yeah. I could buy that one thing for 180 right now. Or I could buy some of Sui, super low. Or I could buy Jupe, it's super low. Right? And let's say I put 40 there. And I'm just saying, like, comparing like buying one thing for 180 or maybe spreading that out if I have that appetite for risk. That could, again, 5x, potentially to like 10x, I think we said. There's 5x to 10x. So it's like Jupe, super low. It'd probably give you 3 to 5x at least. These would multiply from these levels. Next bull run, these would multiply. These are super low levels, right? So it's like, yeah, I could buy the one thing for 180 or I could put 40 in one thing. Potentially that 40 long term could turn into 400, right? $40 to 400 potentially for that one thing versus for one of these things. I'm not putting 180 in, right? 40 bucks, let's say, 20 bucks, 30 bucks, 50 bucks. That's how I look at it. Aster. Sui, even even Polkadot. If it's gonna jump, Polkadot's super low. If this is either dead, this is either a dead narrative, like kind of like Cardano. Like Cardano's either cheap, like a dead narrative, low, dying out, or where's it gonna go from these super low levels, right? Same with like Polkadot. Polkadot, that thing's super low to where if that next phase, it doesn't need to actually go up a lot to multiply from these levels. You have a lot of coins like that that are cheap where it's like, okay, yeah, I can buy one thing for 182, super high up as it just came out. Try to ride that momentum, go with that momentum, or maybe spread that out. ICP. Some of them are super low, like ICP, Polkadot, Cardano, Jupiter, Ondo, HBAR, CRO, even some the meme coin. Like they're I don't want to say as cheap as you'll get, but like we're at low levels, right? To where it's like, all right, if you wanted to, if you're gonna say I want to buy the SpaceX IPO, I'd say you have some cheap opportunities here with probably cryptos long term on some of them. Yeah, if Japan hikes rates, that's one thing I was seeing. You can look over that, but yeah, if you're thinking about SpaceX, think about this. Think about where some of these coins are right now. Some of these altcoins. I went shopping on a few of them. Like it wouldn't like realistically even Peng. I bought a little bit of Pengu at here because like okay, it's so low. I might as well go shopping on some meme coins, altcoins. Because where they are, like the cost of these, where they are in terms of how much per coin, where they are even on the chart, most of them, like most of them are at super all-time low levels. So that's why with that. Bitcoin's not cheap, it's at fair value like we talked about. So yeah, stock market's hot right now, but you have at these prices for some things and the prices some things came to and are around, good longer term things building up. If there's altcoins, solid coins that you still like hold long term, like I'm still betting on the market long term. I'm a long term player. Some of these coins from like where they came to this year, they're low enough to catapult to bounce from these levels strong, 5, 10x long term. We just need that last phase for Bitcoin to pretty much go through the next couple of months. And then Bitcoin goes to like slow growth. The war ending is a good sign though. The war ending is definitely a good sign for the markets. Yeah, so right now Bitcoin's in that like moving average phase. Could spend some months around the moving average, trying to bounce above it back into the range, like what price did exactly over here, because it's repeating, printing. Like Bitcoin right now is printing what it did last bear market. So we're pretty much entering like this stage for Bitcoin right here. Which to me is like accumulation, that final phase, maybe the final flush out, final liquidations, final bear market phase, going into accumulation and then slow growth. And yeah, that could last a couple months, depending on how fast an extreme price moves. That could last like a couple months, right? Well, I'll tell you, we'll go by quick. It's already June 15th, middle of June. In a month, it's going to be almost August. So in 1 month, it's going to be almost August. And then once it's August, we roll into September. It's going to go by pretty quick, the time. Ethereum had a big day. Ethereum had a 10% day. You know, if Ethereum climbs back above 2,000, everybody's going to want to buy it at 2,000. And they're going to forget the narrative of buying when price gives you those cheap costs, right? If we go back, if Ethereum cracks back above 2K, everyone's going to be bullish again and be like, oh, we're back above 2K. They'll see more value to it. Most people don't see value to things when they come to cheaper prices or lower prices. Ethereum just hit $1,500, right? Most people don't see a value to things when they're down like that. Ethereum's the lowest it's been in a while here. Like, this is its lowest demand area for Ethereum. Once we break out of this trend, Ethereum, like you can see, we're in the 2022 bear market trend. Like last time we had a bear market was, again, 2022. You could see this was bear market. Same thing we're in now, bear market. Bear market, bear market. So this will accumulate too. Like this will accumulate. It'll rip back up. And this cycle, since you have so many more institutions, so many more holders now, Ethereum has way more holders than Bitcoin, by the way. If I'm not mistaken, like 25% more holders in Ethereum market. Ethereum has grew through this bear stage, even though price doesn't represent that. Price doesn't show growth. Price doesn't always show growth. Ethereum has grew. The network has grew. The usage has grew in this bear stage. Doesn't show, like price doesn't show that though, right? It'll show that at a later time, right? Like the stuff that's happening inside of all this bear, it'll come at a later time. Yeah, so we're repeating, like Ethereum is repeating the 2022 bear market here. If next bull run Ethereum breaks that level, you will see one of the craziest bull markets ever. If next bull run Ethereum breaks, you gotta remember, everyone thought Ethereum was gonna break. That was the play. You know, we all thought we were gonna make generational wealth with Ethereum breaking $5,000 this time, and it didn't. It failed, right? It just kissed like 5K. Everyone thought we were going to get the craziest run there, and we didn't. We're repeating the 2022 bear market. Ethereum, I believe, has a way higher probability now to break that level because it didn't, and so many people expected it to, and then now a lot of those people have been burnt out. It will most likely, this time around, break that level. That is because now we have force there. This is the thing. Now that level has force. You actually have two important touches there. So now there's actually force at that level. Long term, it's going to break that level. Long term, Ethereum is going to break that level. When it does, I want you to understand that is when all these other coins are going to be going up a lot. That is when that will happen. In the same time of it going to there, coins will be going up, like especially a lot of coins on Ethereum. But where things would get actually crazy for the market is if Ethereum breaking this level, right? And coming long term, right? In the long term foreseeable future. We all thought it was going to happen here, and it didn't. But we're getting, again, 2020, this was the 2022 bear market, and now we got that 2026 bear market. 4 years later, bear market. So the next, now as we're in this bear stage, the next 4 years, like going, I would say 2026. So the next 3 years. So 2029, summer from now. Summer of 2029. Okay? Mark my words. All right? That's 3 years from now. Right? That summer, crypto will probably be pumping euphoric again, really strong, crazy prices. And we're going to want to be selling. So the next 3 years are actually going to be super interesting. Like, pay attention. I would say pay attention because the Coinbase CEO is, if you see how bullish the Coinbase CEO is, like there's a lot of interesting signs. Long term though, it's all long term. You gotta remember short term in crypto is 4 years. Short term in Bitcoin is 4 years because bear markets. Again, we had 2014 bear market, 2018 bear market, 2022, 2026. So in between those bear markets, you have that kind of like 3 year, I would say 2 year to 3 year, or more closer to like 3 years of the market going up or having a bullish phase in between, right? At 2018 bear market, once that was over, market went up until 2022 bear market. Now we're 2022 bear market, that went up. We're in 2026 bear market. 2029 should be very interesting. That's long term though. That's how long term you have to think with these things so you don't get screwed over. So you don't screw yourself over because most people get in for months. Most people get in at the wrong times too. Most people will get in maybe when prices are more expensive, it's going up, and then they'll stay in the water for a while, and they don't know how to maneuver out of that. Long term, I would pay attention to these things. Long term, I would pay attention to these things. Going into the end of the year, like these summer months will probably just accumulate, get some like crazy flush outs as well in like the daily time frame. Or I'll say one thing. The most optimistic thing is the 200-day moving average actually holds and we don't go below it. That would be historically something that has happened, but I don't know. I feel like we're gonna get like more like what happened last bear market, the 2022. So make sure you start I would start accumulating right before 2027 on this thing. Like going into 2027, I would start accumulating in this phase. We have some months left until the bottom, and then where it goes into like a slow growth phase, and then it goes into a bull market. We got to bounce this time around. Yeah, we could be bouncing to go down, tag the lows, consolidate. We could go underneath it, get one crazy like flush down where it looks like everything's over, and that prints the bottom, and market goes more into like a slow growth phase and recovers back up. I think low is like most people think a lot of people think Bitcoin's going to go to 20. I don't think so. I think 40 to 50 range is like maximum pain. 40K, 50K range. That's where it actually becomes cheap. So yeah, Bitcoin just has to undergo this stage right here basically before the end of the year. Which it is right now, because over there it bounced a bit. Like we're bouncing off the moving average, so we're going through that stage, right? Pay attention is all I'm saying. Because war ending is one thing, Clarity Act, like the Clarity Act gets passed, that's huge. The Clarity Act, we have conflict coming to an end. Clarity Act comes. Clarity Act gets passed, that's big for the market. But I'm going to wrap this session up. If you're inside the inner circle, I will be streaming later tonight. All right, if you're inside the inner circle community, I'll be streaming tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time to check out the market. All right. I'm going to wrap this session up. Pay attention to crypto. I even mentioned some cryptos that are pretty low in price on this session. Like most altcoins are pretty low, pretty cheap in price. I'm going to wrap it up. I'll be on Inner Circle. If you're inside the Inner Circle, I'll be on tonight. We got a stream scheduled for tonight. I will be